The sky above planet Zyrith was always red. The palace of the alien king stood tall and cold, made of black stone and glowing blue light. Inside, the royal court waited. Soldiers stood like statues. Alien nobles whispered in excitement. Today was a special day. A prisoner was brought in. 2 guards entered, pulling a human behind them. He looked weak, thin, and dirty. His name was Captain Ryan Cross, a human soldier captured after the Battle of Elter Prime. Everyone expected him to beg. He did not. Ryan walked straight, eyes cold and calm. He looked at no one. He said nothing. Sitting on the throne was King Xantar, ruler of the Zyrith Empire. Tall, with purple skin and glowing silver eyes, he stared at the human. Next to him stood his 3 daughters. Princess Vera, the eldest, was quiet but sharp. Her brain was a weapon. Princess Kayla, the second, was a warrior strong and fearless. Princess Lura, the youngest, was proud and cruel. She laughed the most. Lura pointed at Ryan and laughed loudly. "This is the great human warrior? He looks like a starved animal." Kayla stepped forward. "He didn't even fight when we caught him. Maybe humans are just soft." Vera spoke calmly. "No, he's not soft. He's quiet. That's worse. Quiet ones are dangerous." Ryan finally looked up. His eyes met the king's. The room went silent. King Xantar spoke. His voice was deep and strong. "You are Captain Ryan of Earth?" Ryan nodded once. "Yes, you lost the battle. You were captured. Why did you not take your own life, as your kind usually does?" Ryan gave a small smile. "Because I still have work to do." The court laughed. Lura rolled her eyes. "Work? What work? You're a prisoner. You're nothing now." Ryan stayed calm. He didn't answer. Suddenly, a flash of light came from his neck. A scar, a strange symbol, glowed for a second and then disappeared. Only the king noticed it. The king's eyes narrowed. He whispered something to his guard. Princess Kayla walked up to Ryan. She stood close. "You're not afraid?" "No. I could kill you with one hand." "Then do it," Ryan said softly. Kayla hesitated. For a second, she saw something in his eyes, something strange. He wasn't scared. He wasn't angry. He was measuring her. Vera watched him closely. "He's hiding something." King Xantar stood. "Take him to the prison tower. Feed him, watch him, and prepare the trials." "Trials?" Lura asked, confused. The king looked at her. "He is not what he seems." Later that night, Ryan sat in his dark prison room. No chains. Just silence. He stood up and walked to the wall. He placed his hand on the cold stone. Slowly, he pressed in a pattern: tap, tap, tap. A small part of the wall slid open. Inside was a metal device. A broken Zyrith drone. Ryan pulled it out and smiled. "I knew you'd still be here." He began fixing it, using a tiny tool hidden in his belt. His hands moved fast, like he had done this 1,000 times. Outside the cell, a small camera watched. Him. It blinked red. Someone was watching. In the palace, the king sat alone in a dark room. On the wall, a screen showed Ryan working on the drone. One of the generals entered. "Should we stop him, my king?" "No," the king said. "Let him continue." "You believe he is a threat?" The king turned slowly. "He is more than that. He is a key." "To what?" The king looked at the screen. "To everything." Back in the cell, Ryan finished fixing the drone. It floated in the air, glowing. He whispered to it, "Send the signal. Phase 2 begins now." The drone beeped once, then flew through a small vent. Ryan sat back and smiled. "They think I'm weak," he said quietly. "They have no idea what's coming." The cold sun rose over the red sky of Zyrith. Inside the palace, the sisters were not laughing anymore. Not out loud, at least. Lura sat on a crystal chair, tapping her sharp nails on the armrest. "The human is strange," she said. "He didn't Blink when I threatened him. That's not normal. Kayla crossed her arms. I was inches away from his face. He didn't flinch. No fear in his eyes. That's not weakness. That's control. Vera didn't speak. She was reading a file on a glowing screen. It was Ryan's record, what little they had. One line stood out. No known family. Battle survivor. Tactical mind. Escaped capture twice before. She looked up. He's hiding something. In the center hall, Ryan stood alone. No guards, no chains. Just 3 alien princesses looking at him like he was a puzzle. Or a game. Laura walked around him like a predator. Let's test him. Let's see if he's as smart as he thinks. Kayla threw a small metal cube at Ryan. What is this? Ryan caught it without looking. The cube began to glow in his hand. He pressed one side. It folded out into a tiny map. A Xyrith field drone, Ryan said. Used for terrain scans. Version 6.2. Weak to magnetic disruption. Kayla blinked. That's classified tech, Ryan smiled. Not to me. Vera stepped forward and handed him a language crystal. Let's see if you're more than just a soldier. She began to speak in a rare Xyrith dialect, almost forgotten by most of the Empire. Ryan answered in the same dialect, clear and perfect. Lura rolled her eyes, so he read a few books. Big deal. Try this, she said, pulling a glowing sphere from a guard's belt. It hummed with energy. She threw it at Ryan. It exploded in light. A bright energy cage formed around him. No one ever escaped that trap before. Ryan stood still inside the cage. He looked at the lines of light, then pulled something from his boot, a tiny pin, nothing more. He pressed it against the cage. There was a loud snap and the light vanished. The sisters froze. How did you? Lura started. It's not about strength, Ryan said. It's about knowing where to press. In a secret chamber above, the king watched everything. His face showed no emotion, but his eyes were sharp. He was testing the human too. And the human was winning. Later that night, Ryan was taken to a private room, clean, warm, and quiet. No more prison cell. But there were still cameras in the walls. He knew. He took apart a small device from his belt, opened a panel behind the mirror, and placed something inside. A signal booster. Back in the control room, a guard saw a flicker on the screen, just for a second. The human ... Something's wrong with his feed. The commander frowned. Reset it. And double the watchers. In the main hall, the sisters were arguing again. He's not just a prisoner, Vera said. He's a spy, maybe even a key to something bigger. Kayla nodded. He's skilled, calm, maybe too calm. Lura refused to listen. He's just lucky, that's all. But deep inside, even Lura was not sure anymore. The king entered the room. The sisters fell silent. You've seen what he can do. King said, now I will see what he can survive. What do you mean? Kayla asked. The king's voice was firm. The trials of fire, gravity, and blade. If he passes, he is worthy. Worthy of what? Laura asked. The king looked at them one by one. Of this empire. Ryan stood outside the trial chamber, calm as ever. His eyes scanned the area, reading everything. He was not just surviving. He was planning, somewhere deep in the palace. A message reached an unknown contact. Phase 2 complete. He passed, moved to Phase 3. The first trial began before sunrise. Captain Ryan stood in a dark chamber, lit only by fire. Flames danced along the walls like living creatures, and the heat could melt steel. The Xyrith fire room had taken the lives of 3 elite warriors last year alone. The doors closed behind him with a hiss. On the balcony above, the king watched in silence. His daughters stood beside him. Kayla leaned forward, her arms resting on the edge. He will not last 10 seconds. Ryan stepped forward without fear. The flames roared louder as he moved. He took off his outer jacket and dropped it on the floor. His skin burned red from the heat, but he didn't stop. He paused near the center of the chamber and looked up at the glowing spires. A strange smile crossed his face. Then, he ran straight toward the flame jet in front of him. Vera gasped. "What is he doing?" Ryan dropped low, rolled beneath the fire jet, and reached a hidden switch on the floor. The fire above stopped. Instantly, he stood up and kept walking, sweat dripping from his face. Kayla stared. "He mapped the room. How?" "He studied it before he entered," Vera whispered. "He memorized the timing of the flames. He counted the gaps." Ryan reached the final point of the trial. A burning platform stood between him and the exit. Door. He closed his eyes for 2 seconds, took a breath, and ran through it. The fire swallowed him for an instant, and then he stepped out the other side. His face covered in black soot, but his body untouched. The crowd above was silent. The king nodded. He passed. The second trial began without warning. Ryan was dropped into a deep gravity pit where the pressure was 10 times stronger than normal. Most bodies would break. His knees bent the moment he hit the ground, but he didn't fall. He clenched his teeth and stood slowly, muscles shaking, but eyes focused. Around him were heavy stones. He needed to place 3 of them on glowing plates to open the door. Ryan picked the first one. It took everything in him just to lift it. His arms trembled. Blood appeared on his palm. The stone slipped and fell, but not on the ground. On his foot, Kayla looked away. "That's it. His bones are crushed." But Ryan didn't scream. He only pulled the stone away, stood back up, and tried again. The second time, he succeeded. One by one, he placed all 3 stones. His hands were torn, his steps slow. But he finished the task. The door opened and the trial was complete. For the final test, Ryan was given a sword not human, but Zyrith steel. Lighter than air, sharper than light. Across from him stood a royal guard, fully armored, twice Ryan's size, trained since childhood. No one expected Ryan to win. The guard attacked fast, swinging the blade like a storm. Ryan blocked, barely. He was quick, but not stronger. Then, he did something strange. He stopped blocking. He let the guard's blade hit his shoulder, twisting his body just enough to avoid serious damage. Then, using the opening, he stepped in and tapped the guard's neck with the edge of his sword, a perfect strike. Everyone froze. Ryan dropped the sword and stepped back. The guard looked at the king, then dropped to one knee. "He beat me, fair and clean." The king stood slow and tall. "Captain Ryan of Earth, you have passed all 3 trials. Fire, gravity, blade. No outsider has done this before. You are now one of us." The sister said nothing. Lyra stared at Ryan, eyes filled with confusion. She had wanted him to fail. She had needed him to fail. Kayla didn't speak either. For the first time, she was unsure what to feel. And Vera, quiet as always, watched him with eyes full of questions. That night, alone in a quiet chamber, Ryan sat by a window and looked up at the stars. His body ached, his hands were wrapped in cloth. But his mind was sharp. He whispered to himself, "They still don't know what I'm really here for, but they will soon." Behind him on the table, the Zyrith drone he had repaired blinked once, then twice, and then it began transmitting. The grand hall of the Zyrith palace was silent. Nobles, warriors, scholars all had gathered again. But this time, not to mock a human. This time, they waited for a royal decision. Captain Ryan stood before the throne, bruised but steady. His eyes were sharp, like a man who had already seen too much and didn't fear what came next. King Xantar rose from his blackstone seat. His voice echoed through the hall. "The trials are over. The outsider is past them all. He is no longer just a human. He has earned a place in our bloodline." Murmurs filled the room. Some with surprise, some with disbelief, and some with anger. King raised his hand. Silence returned. "It is time," he continued. One of my daughters will take him as consort. As husband. The moment those words fell into the air, chaos followed. Lyra stepped forward, eyes blazing. What madness is this? You want a princess of Zyrith to marry him? Kayla slammed her hand against the wall. He's a warrior, yes. But not one of us. Not truly. Vera said nothing. Her eyes remained locked on Ryan, watching every move, every breath. The king did not blink. It is my will. But why? Lyra snapped. There are hundreds of noble houses, warriors, scientists, royal blood. There is something inside him, the king answered calmly. Something ancient, something powerful. You all saw the scar on his neck. That mark was not a wound, it is a seal. Ryan turned his head slightly, as if he too was hearing this for the first time. What seal? He asked, voice low. The king looked at him. Your father once walked these halls. Long ago, before Earth became our enemy. He was not just a soldier, he was a builder. A keeper of lost knowledge. That scar was his final work, an imprint of Zyrith tech. I don't remember him, Ryan said. Only fragments. You will, the king promised. In time. Lyra laughed bitterly. So now we are to marry him because his blood glows in the dark? No, the king said. You will marry him because he is the bridge. The future. The only chance we have to unite what we broke. Ryan took a step forward. I didn't come here for marriage, he said. I came here because my people are dying. Because our systems are failing. And because your empire holds the key to saving them. Vera finally spoke. You think marriage will fix war? No, Ryan said. But trust might. There was silence again. Heavy silence. The king turned to his daughters. You have a choice. This is not an order from a father. It is an offer from a king. One of you will stand beside him or walk away. But know this. If you reject peace, you invite war. Lyra looked away. Kayla clenched her jaw but said nothing. Vera stepped down slowly, standing only a few feet from Ryan. She didn't touch him. She didn't smile. Why didn't you kill anyone during the trials? She asked. I didn't need to. Why not take revenge for being mocked? I didn't come for pride. Then what did you come for, really? Ryan looked her in the eyes. I came to finish my father's mission, and maybe to find something worth staying for. The words were simple, but something in them made the great hall feel colder. Vera nodded once. Not a yes, not a no, just a moment of thought. Later, alone in her chamber, Kayla stared at the reflection in her sword. She had never feared any man. She had never respected one either. But Ryan, he didn't chase glory. He didn't chase power. He survived. In survival. She thought, is the rarest strength of all. Somewhere beneath the palace, the drone Ryan fixed had traveled far. It passed through vents, behind walls, below the throne. At last it entered a forgotten chamber sealed for decades. Inside, a broken console lit up as the drone connected. A voice played, old and dusty. If you're hearing this, then he's inside. My son, and the truth must now come to light. The moon above Zyrith's capital was low and red, casting long shadows through the palace towers. The wind whispered through the stone corridors. Most of the palace slept, but someone was still awake. In a quiet guest chamber, Ryan stood by the window, staring at the alien stars. His wounds from the trials had almost healed, but something inside him had not. He had passed the tests. He had earned respect. And yet, the silence around him felt too heavy. Then he noticed it. His food tray, left by a servant hours ago, still smelled fresh. Too fresh. He bent down, lifted a piece of fruit, and smelled it again. Faint but familiar. A chemical trace. Not one from Earth Zyrith made. It was slow, quiet, and deadly. He didn't eat. He sat down and waited, motionless. 30 minutes passed. Then the wall behind him cracked open, quiet, almost invisible. A shadow moved fast, aiming something small and sharp. A dart flew through the air. Ryan dodged. The dart buried itself in the wall. He kicked the shadow hard, sending the attacker crashing backward. A second figure ran from the hallway, but Ryan was ready. He slammed the door shut and hit the emergency. Lock. Red lights blinked. Outside, guards came running. Inside, Ryan stood over one attacker, now unconscious. The other had vanished. When the king arrived, the palace guards were already scanning the room. This was not random, Ryan said. It was planned. Someone close. Someone inside. The king gave no reply. He only looked at the dart in the wall. Not a soldier's weapon, he said at last. This is personal. News of the attack reached the sisters the next morning. Kayla was furious. He passed the trials. He was accepted. Who would break the law of the throne? Laura looked away. Some laws are weak. Vera said nothing. She stood still, staring at the wall as if she could hear whispers inside it. That evening, Vera came to Ryan's chamber alone. No guards, no warnings. She didn't knock. She entered like someone with nothing to fear. You think it was one of us, she said. Ryan didn't lie. Yes, Vera nodded. That's fair. You don't seem surprised. I'm not. She walked to his table and placed a thin crystal down. A memory shard. I found this, she said. It's from the old science wing. No one has entered that place in years, but someone has been accessing your father's files. Ryan stared at the crystal. You said my father was here. He was, Vera replied. Before Earth was. Declared a threat. He worked for our empire. He helped build Zyrith technology, but then he vanished. Files say he died during an experiment. But his files were erased. Only High Command could do that. Ryan took the shard and slid it into the reader. A small voice came alive. If my son ever finds this, I failed to stop the project. The king promised peace, but others wanted war. They used my work for weapons. I hid the last design inside a living code. Inside you. Ryan closed his eyes. The voice of a father he never remembered, now warning him across time. They will come for you, the voice continued. Even those who once smiled at me. The shard stopped playing. Vera stepped back. I told you because I want answers too. Ryan looked at her. And the others? Kayla had locked herself in the training room since morning. She didn't speak to anyone. Only hit metal until her fists bled. Laura walked alone through the halls that night. She whispered to someone on her device. He's gaining too. Much power. If father won't stop him, we will. In the shadows of the palace, a small ship arrived silently. It didn't carry trade. It didn't carry visitors. It carried soldiers dressed in gray armor, without flags or names. The symbol on their chest was not the king's. They entered through a back gate, and no one saw them. Not yet. And deep below the palace, the drone Ryan had activated blinked again. This time, it sent one last signal, unlocking a gate buried under rock and time. Inside that gate, machines long dead powered on. Waking up after 30 years of silence. War was not coming. It was already here. The air in the palace had changed. It was colder, now not because of the wind, but because of what was not being said. Everyone smiled a little less. Everyone looked over their shoulder a little more. Captain Ryan moved through the halls with silent steps. The attack had changed everything. He had survived the poison, survived the dart, but something deeper had cracked. He was no longer just a guest or even a trial winner. He was a threat. And he knew it. The king avoided him. The sisters watched him, and somewhere in the lower chambers of the palace, the walls still whispered secrets from the past. Ryan returned to the chamber where he had played the crystal left by Vera. He found something strange in the wall behind the reader. Old markings, buried under paint and dust. Not Zyrith symbols, Earth symbols. Human numbers. Coordinates. He copied them down and followed them through hidden corridors, deeper and deeper into the oldest part of the palace. The guards did not follow. Either they didn't know, or they had been told to stay away. The passage ended at a thick metal door, untouched for decades. Ryan pressed his hand against the scanner. It did not respond. Then, without warning, the scar on his neck pulsed faintly. A red light blinked on the panel. The door hissed open. Inside was a small sealed chamber. On the wall, a human flag, old, torn, but real. And at the center, a cryostone containing files, names, designs, and a recording. He played it. His father's voice returned. This time calmer, sadder. They lied to us, Ryan. The Zyrith didn't invite peace. They invited power. I was one of their builders. I gave them tech to protect life. They turned it into weapons. I tried to stop them, but I was too late. So I did the only thing I could. I hid the key inside my own son. Ryan stood frozen. The truth was not just heavy, it was alive inside him. He wasn't just a diplomat's child. He was a living blueprint. A walking lock to lost human knowledge that had once changed the stars. Behind him, a quiet voice spoke. You found it. Ryan turned, fast hand already reaching for a hidden blade. But it was Kala. She stood in the doorway, sword still strapped but untouched. She had followed him, but not to stop him. I had to see for myself, she said. See what? That you weren't lying. That you weren't just another invader hiding behind stories. Ryan stared at her. And what do you think now? Kayla stepped inside. Now I think we've been lied to too. They walked through the chamber together. She touched the old earth steel. It felt warm, familiar, even though she had never seen it before. We were told humans stole Zyrith tech, she said quietly. That's the lie, Ryan replied. You didn't give us anything. My people made the tech. Your empire took it, then erased the proof. Kayla looked at the scar on his neck. That seal, it's ancient. Even our science leaders don't know how to decode it. It's not just a seal, Ryan said. It's a lock, and I'm the only one who can open it. That night, Vera called an emergency meeting in the high chamber. All three sisters arrived. The king was absent. Ryan entered last. There was no ceremony. No guards, just truth. Vera didn't waste time. We've seen the recordings, the ones you found. Ryan nodded. Kala added, and I've confirmed the markings. They match Earth design pre-war. Lura stayed silent. She had seen them too. She had nothing to say. Finally, Vera looked at Ryan and said, What do you want? I want the truth made public, he said. No more lies, no more fake history. If peace is possible, it must begin with truth. Lura stood slowly. You're playing a dangerous game, human. Ryan didn't flinch. Then it's time someone did. Suddenly, the room lights flickered. Alarms blared outside the palace walls. A message came through the high screen unauthorized. Ships entering the city airspace. Unknown flags. No response to Zyrith codes. And inside the control room, a young guard screamed into his comm device. They're here. It's them. The Grey Legion traitors. They've come for the human. Ryan stepped toward the screen. They're not just here for me. He looked at the sisters. They're here to erase the truth. The sky above Zyrith burned with black smoke as silent warships broke through the clouds like falling shadows. The Grey Legion had arrived. No flag, no signal, no warning. Only weapons and silence. Ryan stood on the royal balcony, watching them. Descend. They're not here to talk, he said softly. Kayla joined him, already in armor. Then we speak with steel. Down in the city, chaos was spreading. Civilians ran. Guards scrambled. The palace defense grid flickered, then failed. Sabotage from within. Ryan and the three sisters stood together for the first time, not in mockery, not in argument, but as warriors ready for battle. The king entered, slow, steady. His voice was deep but tired. I should have ended them long ago. They were your allies once, Vera said. Now they want to erase us, he replied. And him most of all, Ryan turned. Then give me access to the chamber. The king hesitated. You'll trigger it? Ryan nodded. If they break through, I must. The king stepped aside. No more questions. Lyra looked at Ryan, her face unreadable. And what happens to us if you fail? I don't plan to fail. The first wave hit the palace wall. Gray armored soldiers stormed through the outer gates, firing silent pulse weapons. Zyrith guards fought back. Red lights flashed. Stone shattered. Kaela charged first, sword drawn, cutting through the front line with savage force. Her movements were fast, brutal, precise. One enemy fell, then another, then 5 more. Vera stayed behind, guiding defense systems from the control tower, rerouting energy to shields, buying seconds, only seconds. Lyra, strangely silent, vanished into the shadows. Ryan moved with purpose through the chaos, into the old chamber beneath the palace. He reached the console where his father's voice once spoke. The scar on his neck glowed. The lock opened. Inside was the original system human designed, hidden for decades. A beacon, not a weapon. A call. As gray soldiers closed in, Ryan activated the system. Above the city, the stars blinked unnaturally. A wave pulsed out, unseen to the eye, felt only by machines. All Zyrith weapons stolen human. Hybrids froze out. The Grey Legion's guns powered down. Their ships halted mid-air. The palace fell quiet. Ryan stepped outside. Burn marks covered his arms, blood on his lip. But he stood. Kayla met him in the courtyard. You shut them down? No, he said. I reminded the tech where it came from. It obeyed its true creator. More footsteps approached. Not enemies. Lyra. But not alone. Behind her, the leader of the Grey Legion walked slowly, hands raised, not in peace. In defeat. I was promised silence, he said to the king. You lied. You broke the future, the king replied. He restored it. The leader looked at Ryan. You were just a human. Ryan's voice was calm. That was your first mistake. The guards seized the traitors. The skies cleared. The city exhaled. And yet, something remained unfinished. Later that evening, in the royal hall, broken but standing, the king addressed his people. There are moments when blood must rise, he said, and moments when it must join. He turned to Ryan. You came here a prisoner. You became more. And now I offer you what no outsider has ever been given. He looked to his daughters. One of you may still choose. Not for peace, not for politics, but for something stronger. The hall fell silent. Lyra looked away. Vera stepped forward. Then paused. And Kayla walked straight to Ryan. Her armor still dusty, her hand still bleeding. She said nothing. Just took his hand, and the hall began to cheer. Ryan didn't smile. He only looked into her eyes and nodded. A wedding. A joining. Not just of 2 people, but of 2 worlds. The future would not be easy. The Empire had many enemies. Peace would not last unless defended. But now, they had something new. Hope. And it began with one weak human, who was never weak at all.